Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me on this Wednesday. As always, I appreciate your company. You know what happens around here on Wednesday. We call it Deep Dive Wednesday for a reason. This is the day we bring an expert in-house to tackle a subject, an issue, a story in the headlines, and really go deep to really understand everything that's at play and look at it from every angle. We will, of course, be doing that. My guest today is a photographer and author, Mariela Furrer. She wrote an incredible book called My Piece of the Sky, detailing child sexual abuse. It's almost 700 pages, and it tells the story of how this scourge, this disease, is running rampant across Africa, across the world. She's focusing on South Africa in this book and how this issue affects victims, survivors, community, legal minds, doctors, the police. It's a comprehensive look at this issue from every angle. She will be my guest shortly. I have so many questions for her. She spent almost a decade of her life putting this book together, and I have so many questions to ask her. I know you will have questions for her too. You know how this works. Get writing, send in your questions, and let's have a conversation about all of this. Let's get started. But before we dive in with Mariela, I want to bring you an update on the story of little Khadija Sakho. Many of you will remember the story, and it's hard to forget once you've heard it. 5-year-old Khadija Sakho was raped and murdered in Sierra Leone 2 weeks ago today. This is the second week of her death. It's the 2-week anniversary. She was murdered and assaulted allegedly by a family member. And on this day, 2 weeks to the day she was raped and murdered, it emerges that there is a video circulating showing this little girl being kissed by the man accused of raping her, who happens to be her cousin. There are no words for how upsetting this is. We're not showing you the video. It's child pornography, so let me make that very clear. Anybody who's watching this, who has the video and is circulating the video, you are circulating child pornography. And you are re-victimizing this child. You are traumatizing the child's family. And you are part of the problem. So I want to find out what exactly is going on. Joining me now from Freetown is Fatmata Sori. She is a lawyer who's monitoring this. She's with the group, the not-for-profit group Lawyers. That's an acronym for this group of female lawyers who are working to support survivors as they pursue justice in these types of cases. Fatmata, thank you for joining me.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me, Aisha.
I know you haven't seen the video yourself. You're staying well away from it, as everybody should. Tell me what you know about it and how you first heard that it was in circulation.
I just know it's the depiction of child pornography involving the girl and the accused person, or the suspect, I should say, since the matter is under investigation. And I was in the heart of the city when I got a call from a close ally, raging on the phone and telling me about this video. And I was like, even just listening to him, I was mad myself. I was really, really upset. I couldn't just believe that a video like that was making circulation in media. And I was like, how did that happen? And he couldn't tell, but between the both of us, we determined that it could have very well been a leak from the investigation, because the boy no longer has his phone in his possession. And if this had been something that had been out there before the incident happened or before he was taken into custody, it could have very well been leaked, considering the hype and all the protests and all the loud cry from members of the public. The fact that it's coming out now appears to me that it's something that's evidence that has been unraveled during the course of the investigation, and somebody just thought that they could be mischievous and completely heartless to just share that video and make it public. And people keep recirculating the video, and I'm wondering to myself, everybody in their right sense, considering the number of people who are on media protesting about this girl, ought to be sensitized enough to guard themselves from even circulating that video. It's not a comfortable thing to look at. It's not comfortable to watch. So if you circulate it, it means you've watched it in the first place.
So I want to make.
If you did watch it, keep it to yourself.
Yeah, and I do want to make it clear to the viewers what this is doing to the family. I don't want anyone to be in any doubt about what you are doing every single time you circulate the video. I have spoken to little Khadija's father today. He sent me the video. I saw it, screamed, called him. He was screaming, crying on the phone. I just want everybody to know that. He was screaming, crying on the phone at the sight of a video of the man who is in custody, accused of raping and murdering his 5-year-old, kissing his child. He is screaming, crying on the phone. So I just want people to know that. This is not harmless. You are circulating child pornography. You are re-victimizing this child. You are assaulting her once more, and you are now extending that pain and hurt to her family. And you are part of the problem. We have a rape culture in Sierra Leone and beyond Sierra Leone. And I guess, Famata, my question to you is, what does the wide distribution of the video amongst Sierra Leoneans and beyond, what does it say about our culture? What does it say about us?
That we just don't respect anything relating to our human dignity and the life of the victim. And that we truly haven't been listening or paying attention to anything at all. Because this is not the first time people have been telling people to stop circulating these kinds of videos or try to protect and preserve the identity of the victims and survivors. You know, even the makeup of our justice system is such that the victims and survivors are re-traumatized over and over again. You go to the police, you tell your story. You go to the medical people, you tell your story. You go to the court, you tell your story. Not everybody wants to tell their story. Not everybody wants to engage over and over on a subject matter that affects them in such a bad way, in a negative way. And we never think of the psychosocial effect of these things on the victims when they come forward. It is also one of the reasons why most people don't go through the criminal justice system, because they just cannot confront the perpetrator. They just cannot bear the thought of having to relive and retell their stories just in being in the process of seeking justice. We really have to work towards ensuring that our justice system is more accommodating so that the victims can speak maybe once before they go to court. If they have to speak 2, 3, 4 times before they go to court, by the time they get to court, they're exhausted. Not forgetting that it takes quite a while for some of these matters to get to court. And the justice system by itself is inundating. We really have to work towards the benefit and interest of these victims and survivors. It is not fair on anybody who goes through such a horrendous incident in their life.
Obviously, you're circulating a minor engaged in a sexual act, you know, or being engaged with an adult. So it's child pornography. I mean, we know it meets the definition. Can someone be prosecuted for releasing this? Can we track it? Can we figure out how it was released? What are the chances? Let me just start there.
You know, if the police gets the cyber crimes unit involved, first of all, the police has to look within. Where did the video come from? If it's from within, then they have a responsibility. They have to come out with a statement condemning such act and conduct a thorough investigation to figure out how could possibly such a sensitive material make it to the public circle. And then it's an offense under the Sexual Offences Act to circulate. It's an offense under the Anti-Human Trafficking Act. We've signed so many protocols on child.
They should be prosecuted. This is not the first time videos like this have people been prosecuted for circulating this kind of material before in Sierra Leone.
Not that I'm ever aware of. Not that I'm ever aware of. I know that probably in 2017, not about porn, but something related with something else that was circulated relating to probably a strike or something caused police investigation and subsequent prosecution. But I've never heard about people circulating, for instance, the identities of victims and survivors or circulating child pornography. I've never heard.
And just to be clear, to date, we haven't heard a statement from any of the investigating authorities. We haven't heard anything from the police explaining how this video has made its way into the public domain, because all eyes are on the police. Because we don't need to go down the road of theorizing, but at the end of the day, one is looking at them as being the source of this because they had the individual's phone, but because again, the question is, where else could it have come from? I mean, that's an unanswered question, but everybody's looking at them and just still asking, where else could it have come from if not from them? And they still haven't said anything yet, correct?
We haven't heard anything from them, and I would hope they would say something. And I'm sure they will come out with a statement saying they only found out now. But it's being on media for the longest time, and I heard about it about 3:30 today. And when I turned my WhatsApp on about 4 o'clock, there's an all-female group that somebody posted it on, and I reprimanded that person immediately and asked her to bring it down, that it was unacceptable to circulate. And I told her it's an offense to recirculate. It's just something, and people ought to know that ignorance of the law is no excuse. No. And I'm tired of people saying we're not aware that the law says this, that the law says it's criminal. The law is not made in Greek, it's in English. People have an obligation to read and understand our laws. If you don't understand, ask. But it is in black and white that child pornography and circulation of child pornography is enough.
How do we stop this from happening again?
The people are not listening, and it doesn't matter the level of education. I will say that outrightly, because some of the people who circulate are educated and exposed people. There has to be some prosecution that is made public. Somebody has to pay. Somebody has to be held accountable for such conduct. Only then will we get a situation where people will stop and learn that these things cannot be done, and that just because you have media does not give you the right to abuse it.
Yeah. Isha Sesay, thank you for joining us. I'm sorry it's under these circumstances. Thank you for the work you do supporting survivors as they pursue justice. Thank you. We'll continue to talk, as you know we will. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I wish I had positive results for you, that things have changed in my country that I love so dearly. Fortunately, I'm sorry. Yeah. But we'll get there. We're not going to give up. Yeah.
We will get there. We will. Be safe, Amasa. Thank you.
I will. With pleasure.
Thank you. If you're just joining us here on Home with Isha Sesay, I see some people who are asking what is happening. This is, it's been 2 weeks. Today is, it's been 2 weeks since 5-year-old Khadija Sako was raped and murdered in Freetown, Sierra Leone. And on this day, the second week anniversary of her death, A video is now circulating widely across social media showing this little 5-year-old in an embrace with the man accused of raping and murdering her. The video is circulated far and wide for it to have been sent by multiple individuals to the child's family, who are now distraught at seeing and reimagining what happened to their beloved child. I'm going to say it again. If you have the video, if you're circulating the video, you're circulating child pornography. I want to make it very clear. You are taking part in a crime. We have reached out to the government for a statement. We have not received one yet. We will continue to do this. We are aware of efforts to have the video taken down from Facebook and blocked on WhatsApp. So you guys know there is that effort underway also to have it removed. If you circulate it, you are part of the problem. We're asking a lot of people within the government to make themselves available. So far, our invitations have not been accepted. We'll continue to ask. We're always here for them to say their piece. But right now, we want to hear from our leaders. I want to bring in our guest today, who has been waiting and has her own very, very in-depth perspective on this disease affecting many parts of the world. This is not just Sierra Leone's problem. She has covered and catalogued this as it does run rampant child sexual abuse in South Africa. Let's dig deeper into all of this. Mariela Ferreira is the author of the book, My Piece of Sky, Stories of Child Sexual Abuse. This is a widely acclaimed book that has artwork and poetry and journals about this horrific topic as she tries to really help people understand the scale, scope of the impact here. She joins us now from Nairobi, Kenya. Mariela, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for the work you've done. The book it's tremendous. I know that it was sparked by Marie Claire assignment that you had. You were going to do a photo essay on the issue of child sexual abuse. Tell me why you went from, doing that to wanting to devote 10 years of your life to capturing this issue like in this way.
So, I researched, it was a 3-day assignment. And the more I researched, the more I felt there was a lot to tell. I myself had been sexually abused when I was 5-year-old in Kenya by a tourist, a white man. And I think I always felt very alone with my abuse, very ashamed of it, seeing that there were so many people coming to the child protection unit where I was documenting in South Africa. I realized just how many children were being abused, and I thought it was important to tell. And the more I researched, there were different aspects of child abuse that I felt were really important. So, it took 10 years.
Yeah, it took 10 years. And talk to me about this. I think it was really insightful that you took it from every single angle. All the different people that are touched by this are involved in this, investigating it, prosecuting it, caring for survivors. Let's start with talking about the survivors of these horrific attacks. What did you learn about them? Was there any commonality amongst in terms of who's targeted, the upbringing, who does the abusing? Talk to me about that.
So, I wouldn't say I'm an expert. Just from what I've learned in my 10 years researching this, was that this impacts us all, directly or indirectly. Does not leave a single country untouched. Child sexual abuse is a global issue, which impacts us all. Irrespective of socioeconomic standing, race, religion, or other, everybody affected some or another. And so it's really difficult. You know, we can't watch our children 24 hours a day. That's the problem. So I think that it's up to us as a community to keep an eye on everybody's children. I mean, it really comes down to sort of that village mentality of caring for all children and knowing who the people are within our community that, you know, I would say it's obvious, but definitely there would be signs of something not quite right with a individual.
Yeah. Talk to me about the impact on the children that you photographed.
So, I photographed a lot of these children when they were coming to the police or when they were at the teddy bear clinic for abused children. So actually, I really just stayed quite distant on the floor. As Mrs. Sorry said, you know, there's a high risk of secondary trauma. And obviously, faces were shown. My understanding and what I is that children are very resilient with the appropriate counselling and support. Mm-hmm. You know, you really need to have a support system around you, whether it's your family or school or counselling. And unfortunately, everybody has access to counselling.
And we want to put up a picture, actually, not to cut you off, but I want to put up a picture from some of the pictures that you took from the teddy bear clinic there in South Africa. Let's go to the second image from the clinic. This is a different story that we'll come back to. But the second image, what are we looking at here? This is this clinic that you catalogued, that you spent time at. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
This clinic is called the Clinic for Abused Children in Johannesburg, and they deal with children who have been abused and, you know, sexually, emotionally, physically. This little girl was trying to escape from the room where she was to undergo a physiological examination. This after a young cousin of a certain age admitted to playing sexual games with her. Eventually, they found out that her little cousin had been sexually abused, and so they all went for counselling. The teddy bear clinic did forensic gynecology examinations, which would be sent to court. They did counselling. They did what is called court preparation, so they prepare the child and the family for court. They counsel parents. There's group therapy for the parents, as you find that a lot of people understandably want to kill the perpetrator, who might be a cousin, an uncle, an aunt, whatever. And ultimately, you are trying to convince these parents that you are better being there with your child when they need you the most than being up in prison. Mm. So they prepare the child for court. They have a room that is built like a courtroom, and there's role play there. And so the child goes to court, I wouldn't say they're comfortable, but they understand the process, and they've sort of done role play for quite a while. Mm. Then they also do what they call a Spark program for young adult juveniles who may have already committed a sexual assault or child abuse or have acted inappropriately. And this group, basically young perpetrators, teaches them, behavior and inappropriate, and helps them believe in themselves, gives them self-esteem and everything. And it works very well in preventing reoffending.
Let's put up the next picture, because I want you to tell some of the stories that you learned about some of the people you photographed. And you're not showing faces, and explain that to our viewers as we talk about protecting identities and really not re-traumatizing survivors.
So, already having a child's face could be quite traumatic. So I was very careful to spend quite a lot of time with the child and explain to them their identity would never be known, or their names, unless they were murdered. are pseudonyms. So
And
this
so-
is Angie.
This is
Sorry.
Angie. Okay, no, go ahead. So I
Angie.
didn't see the image. Forgive me. That's why I interrupted. Sorry.
This is Angie. She is 12 years old and the survivor of rape. Her mother was murdered trying to protect her from it.
And when you met her as a 12-year-old, obviously different to the toddlers and the infants that you photographed, again, as we try and understand the impact on survivors, what did you see when you looked at her?
Well, even just looking at the photo, you just feel this brilliant girl who you have to question how, a child's mind are quite egocentric, so she will blame herself, just for her mother dying, for her mother's murder. Obviously, it's not her fault. But I feel that will take a while to overcome. And it is one thing also that I feel so heartbroken for this little girl in Sierra Leone, which I'm not going to talk about her name because it identifies her sister. But her sister really needs to have a system around her, because she will have the guilt and the shame of the abuse, and then the guilt that her sister was murdered and that they didn't say anything, or, it's just so complex that she really needs to be supported, and frankly, with her family, mother or father, as soon as possible.
Yeah. Let's put up another picture. And one thing is I want to ask you, as you talk about the sense of guilt in Sierra Leone, and I'm interested to hear in South Africa if it's the same, at least from the people you spoke to. There's very much a culture of silence and people not speaking out about what they've endured, and the families keeping it quiet out of a sense of not wanting to be shamed. What did you learn about that as you put this book together in South Africa? Is that also at play in that country?
I think I can play with any form of sexual abuse, because people feel, there's shame and stigma attached to it. And as you say, families trying to protect other family members or friends. And the majority of children will not report their abuse because they're ashamed of it. It's global. It's not Sierra Leone, it's not South Africa. It really is a global issue. It's, a sexual assault. It's so, this is something you do behind closed doors. As Mrs. Fatmata said, to talk in public. I mean, you might talk to your best friend about a sexual something, but most people are quite private about it. So for an 8-year-old to have to sit in public in front of the judge, and in some cases jury and the defense and the perpetrator and whoever's in the room, and talk about a sexual assault, his piece, and it is so horrendous. This is the reason most children will not talk about it. And they will feel that they want to blame, maybe they did this or they did that. So silence is, and you do find also, as you say, there's a culture of silence that a lot of mothers, aunts, grandmothers, this has happened to them. And, so, in a way, they feel, look, I survived it, better be quiet and the piece get moved, just go on. So it's not really ignorance, but it's just sort of, well, I've coped with it, so will you, and it just perpetrates the problem.
I want to read this comment from Albert Lansner and get your take on it from the work you did in South Africa around your book. Albert Lansner, thank you for writing in. He says, according to my correctional systems and practices class I teach, as many as 90% of people convicted of child molestation were themselves molested as children. Does that jive with what you know of the situation in South Africa as you put your book together?
Okay, so what I found was that I would say 100% of the perpetrators, including female perpetrators of child sexual abuse, had all been in very, very extremely physically and emotionally abusive homes, but not all have been sexually abused. In fact, it was a minority in the group of men and women I spoke to. Just from violent homes.
Just from violent homes, okay. What did you learn about the perpetrators? You've made the point that not necessarily that there was sexual abuse, but there was abuse, there was emotional abuse, there was some trauma. How much time did you spend with perpetrators? What surprised you?
So, first of all, I just need to clarify that the perpetrators that I worked with, they're not violent criminals. They had not murdered a child. They were mainly paedophile groomers who would groom for a long time and abuse. So, one of them in particular, I have to say, what shocked. Obviously, by the time I'd gone to work with him, I'd already been 3 years working with the police and Libet Clinic and activists. So you really think you want to kill these people. And then I started working in a sex offender group, a child sex offender group, and just one person in particular really threw me, because I thought, God, this man.
Mariella, I'm sorry for cutting you off. Your picture has gone super fuzzy, and we can barely see you. And everything you're saying is so important. So I'm going to actually interrupt you and ask you to log out and come back in, because I think it's too important to labor through. So thank you. We'll be right here.
Sorry.
The technical team. Right. We'll work on that. While Mariella gets her picture sorted, I'm staying here. I want to read some of your comments. Thank you for staying with me. This is not easy subject, but it is not an issue that we can turn away from. As Mariella made the point there, this is not a Sierra Leonean problem. It's not a South African problem. This is happening right around the globe. We're focusing the situation as it is in Sierra Leone immediately, because little Khadija this happened there. I'm from Sierra Leone, and we need to talk about it. We have to tackle this. I want to read some of the comments. TTK said, the weird thing about some of these people sharing this video, as long as it doesn't directly affect them, they don't care. That's the sad thing. Just remind everybody once more that a video is circulating showing little Khadija in a romantic embrace with the man accused of murdering her, raping and murdering her. And so that is doing the rounds now, much to the distress of her family. You have all been writing in. And I just want to say, Julia Kita says, millions of children are abused and killed every day all over the world. When will this stop? For God's sake, these animals need to be dealt with in kind. Thank you for all the comments. I'm going to continue to weave them into the conversation. Mariella is back. Mariella, you do look a lot better, it has to be said. So sorry, if you could just pick up again, and you made the point that the perpetrators that you spent time with and captured their stories did not murder anyone, any children. But if you could pick up from there, who were they? What kind of childhoods did they have?
So they all came from very abusive homes, physically and emotionally abusive homes, violent homes, a lot of instability. I struggled this time with them. In fact, I had to go to emergency counselling because there was one of the perpetrators who came to Namibia to join the group. He put himself into it. And this man, I thought, actually could have been a friend. He was witty, he was interesting, he was creative, and he abused his two stepdaughters. And it really, I was sort of very black and white, and this sort of really blurred those lines. I found it very difficult to deal with. So it's not as obvious.
What found difficult? Was it that he seemed so outwardly
normal?
You could have known him in your life.
Absolutely. Had I met this person, he easily fit my social circle. And I think that is, and you know, I remember actually in one of the, I was worked with a child sex offender group, and what I found interesting was that one of them said, I mean, if we looked like monsters, children would run away from us.
Oh, God.
So, and that's the truth. But there is just, you know, people, you know, just as a country, we know, you know, you can see that next door things are a bit strange, things are a bit weird. I mean, it would be scary to intervene, but I think it's really important to keep an eye out. I'll explain why in another photo I've got there.
Yeah, let's put up another photo actually.
Okay.
Let's bring up another one. This is a terrible. I've watched a lot of the talks you've given, so I know this story. Marianne, can you tell the story? But this is a little girl, not quite 3, I believe.
Yes, so Nomsa, also not her real name, not yet 3 years old, and six months earlier she was grabbed from outside the front of her house and sodomized. She was then found later that day outside a payphone and rushed to hospital, where she spent 2 months and endured several life-saving surgeries. Yet it's old.
What did doctors say about the life she would have, having been assaulted in such a brutal way, not even 3 years old?
So basically, her surgeon said to me that it was very likely that she'd be incontinent for the rest of her life, which means that she would be wearing nappies, diapers for the rest of her life. It was horrendous.
And go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Also, so I don't know if you're showing these photos, but the scar on her abdomen goes all the way across her abdomen. I mean, it is 8 inches long.
I've seen the image. I've seen that image. It's we're showing the image right now of her. I think it's known as that being.
That's yep. Mm-hmm. So basically, in the case of this young girl in Sierra Leone, the damage is huge, but broken bones really from the violence that this perpetrator had inflicted on her. Internal damage is of a rape on an infant or toddler is the rectovaginal wall. So they are incontinent, but you know, you can fix it and have surgeries, and not everybody survives that. But it's huge.
Let's put up another picture. This is the little girl. Yeah, but tell us about this. The little girl went missing.
This is a classmate of Sheldine, who went missing and was found 14 days later in a rainstorm pipe. Rainstorm gutter. So Sheldine had gone out for a walk with a 24-year-old man that she knew, and when he tried to touch her inappropriately, she kicked him, and so he strangled her and sexually assaulted her body.
Let me ask you about let's pause there for a second, and the impact on a community. What did you see in terms of the impact on communities?
It's huge. I mean, there's no, these communities, these children are family, whether it's your neighbor's child or everybody is questioning, how did we not see this? Why couldn't we do anything? How can we stop this? Yeah, this is happening. And they all know that sexual abuse happens. The murder of young children in sexual crimes are not as common, just being, a lot of them, but it's not as common as all the sexual abuse that goes on. To have a murder in a community of a child is horrific, and it impacts the police. So, I mean, I really have huge respect, in particular for the South African police who I worked with, because they really went out of their way to murder the perpetrator so that there was proper justice, which takes a lot of self-control when you catch them. And at the detriment of their own family, they would work 24 hours a day. They really work hard, long hours. And I think the emotional and mental load of dealing with crimes against children is horrendous.
Maria, we're going to put up another picture. We're having so much trouble with your image.
Sorry.
It's not your fault. But
I can't see it properly. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's so important what you're saying. So we're going to keep going. We want to put up another picture, though. And I do want to ask you, were you able to figure out why? Why do men and women abuse children? I mean, yes, they were assaulted, but why do they go on to hurt others? Because not everybody who was traumatized physically or emotionally goes on to abuse. So why do these individuals do it?
So I think it's, it's difficult to say. I think that it's a re-victim. You have been a victim in some way, and you're re-victimizing. I think in terms of sexual homicide, there is definitely, I would imagine, some sort of psychological aspect of that. And I would imagine that, for example, in sexual homicide, that this would not be the time that I don't think you go into murder. This would have abused before. I don't know if it's only this young her sister, but they would have been abused before. I think that for a few people, the urge. So I don't know if we can call actually legally. I don't know the story behind it, the history of this man. So I don't know if we can actually call him a paedophile, because some situations opportunistic. There's a little girl, let's go for it. But definitely there's an urge that is quite strong, and fantasies. Child pornography on the internet is something that really pushes people who already have an attraction to children, who might be pedophiles but haven't abused a child, further through the fantasies. Fantasy plays a huge role in sexual crimes, in particular.
One of the things that in Sierra Leone, we know that just about, according to, if my memory serves me right, from conversations I've had with activists recently, less than 10% of cases make it to court, and there's about a 3% conviction rate, roughly speaking. You spend time with police, with the judiciary. How does that compare with South Africa in terms of the criminal justice system dealing with these crimes?
So I think that definitely more of these crimes get caught than reported, but I would say it's a similar conviction rate, because the police, child protection are highly specialized. And even with that, they are trained to, you can't have leading, there's a special way of questioning a child without getting them to say the correct answer. And a child will change, they are constant in their story. So I think unless the child is older, it's very, very difficult to convict a toddler's perpetrator unless they were caught, red-handed. So this is the photo. This is the scar on Nomsa's abdomen. Okay.
Yeah. No, I just, that one, this is the one that, yeah.
So every single day when Nomsa wakes up and looks herself in the mirror, this scar will be a cruel reminder of everything that she endured as a child.
Mara Ferrer, I want to say thank you for the work that you've done in cataloguing and capturing these terrible, painful stories, but we can't look away and we have to give voice to the survivors. Let me just ask you before we let you go, how did it all impact you doing this work for 10 years?
Well, I had post-traumatic stress disorder because I covered the genocide, so I already had that, and this has definitely I had burnout and PTSD for a year. I was off work after burnout.
Oh, Mara,
wow. Yeah.
I mean, it's
difficult.
Take care of yourself.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it again. Let's just put it that way. I feel I did it. Thank you, God, the universe, for helping me. But I would find it very difficult to get back into it now.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you so much for sharing. And we want to bring you back when we can fix. We want to get the shot a little better, and we want to bring you back.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. What you said was so important, but I would love to get you back in conversation with some more people who've also investigated this from different countries. But thank you for today.
Thanks, and have a good evening.
Thank you. You as well. Be safe. It has been such a bad day, and not me. It doesn't matter for me, but for the family of Khadija. That today marks 2 weeks since they lost her, and today is the day that they see this visual reminder of what she was subjected to. There she is with her father, popularly referred to as Congolese, and today is the day that a video was leaked showing her in an embrace with the man accused of raping and murdering her. We don't know how that video got out, but it should be investigated and people must be held accountable for it, because what is happening is now child pornography is being circulated widely across Facebook and WhatsApp groups. You have been writing in, and I want to answer some of your questions and share the conversation out loud. This is from Marianne Erhayi Amadin. Thank you for writing in, Marianne. She says, she's asking, have you invited Khadija's mum for an interview? She has to clarify the relationship the boy had with her daughter. It was definitely not an acceptable relationship. Where was the auntie when he made such a video? She has to speak up. Thank you for asking that question, Marianne. We have been in touch with Khadija's mother last week. If you were able to join us, I shared that we had asked her to be on the show. She is in hospital, at least she was last week, according to her sister. Khadija's mother, Binta, is heavily pregnant, we're told, and has been in a very, very bad way, understandably, given what happened to her 5-year-old, and was hospitalized last week. We checked in again at the beginning of this week to see whether it was possible to have her join us. Once more, we were told that she was not in a state where she could. They asked us to be patient and said when she is able to speak, they will reach out to us. So we're respecting that and giving them space. In terms of her father, Congolese, he has has shared how he is feeling and how he's doing, and he wants justice for his daughter. He desperately, says over and over again he doesn't want this to happen to anybody else's child. Some other comments coming in. Adiatu Kake, oh goodness, how can people do these things to young children, and what's happening to these people who molest these children? I mean, I think that's the issue, right? We know that these crimes are happening. Now, what is happening in terms of holding these people accountable That's the breakdown. The crimes are taking place, but the punishment, that piece hasn't synced up yet. Too many perpetrators are walking around freely. Too many perpetrators are not being held accountable. These cases aren't making it to court. They aren't making it to court fast enough, and when they get to court, because of sloppy investigations, because of things like videos being leaked, these cases fall apart in court, and these perpetrators basically get off scot-free, having shattered the lives of women and children in countless numbers. So we have to get that accountability piece. But it's not just about holding the perpetrators who commit the sexual act accountable. It's also about holding our entire society accountable, because there is a rape culture. What is taking place right now with the circulation of these videos, of this video involving Khadija, this is propagation of a rape culture. Because you are once more, by your act of circulating this video, taking part in an act of dehumanizing and brutalizing this child. By doing that, you are continuing the cycle of violence. You are keeping the rape culture going. We must hold ourselves accountable. There are many people involved in perpetrating the crime of abusing women and children in Sierra Leone and beyond. You cannot just sit there and point the finger and say, that man did it. What I'm doing is harmless. You are being harmful in circulating this video. You are part of the problem in circulating this video. Again, more comments in. This one from Albert Ladsner. Many people who molest children are borderline intelligent. Some victims of molestation are confused by the crime and feel guilty about it because of their emotional attachment to the people who molested them. Well, they're children, so they don't know any better. They can't really tell that what is happening to them is wrong, it's immoral, it's criminal. They're children, and very often when children are abused, the people who abuse them tell them that they're doing it out of love. They tell them that they're doing it to show them affection. The children don't know any better. They're children. A lot of comments from people saying, Jennifer M.Y. Tengbe, it's pathetic that innocent kids that are voiceless are abused sexually with barely any consequences for the perpetrators, especially for victims who share their stories when they are ready, but rather viewed by sympathizers or predators as too late, or there's lack of evidence. This comes back to just how the criminal justice system is failing victims, survivors of these crimes. And really, we're at the point where we have to speak up. If you see something, say something. If you suspect something, say something. You cannot turn a blind eye to a suspicion. You have to flag it to someone and say something doesn't seem right here. And it's not as if it's not happening at such staggering numbers in Sierra Leone that you're not taking a wild stab at an impossibility. It's happening all around us. And the abuse is not coming from outside. It's brothers, it's cousins, uncles, it's fathers, it's best friends who come and visit. It's coming into the home. We all have a responsibility. We all have a responsibility. I want to read this comment from Agnes Mary Akpan-Bendu. Thank you for writing in, Agnes. She says, lack of social welfare system in the country is also a problem. The victims have no safe place to go to, or even a system where the abused children and women can get help from. It saddens my heart. That is so, so true. A lot of time, women, slightly older girls, don't want to speak out because they're worried that if they do, they'll get thrown out or nobody will pay attention. And where can they go? There's no support. There's no help. the medical care they have to pay for, there are no shelters. I mean, these survivors are completely abandoned. They're abandoned at every step of the way. They're abandoned because those who should not have taken advantage of them did, and those who should have been overseeing and being their guardians weren't present. They're abandoned by a legal system. They're abandoned by our communities that don't stand by them. We are abandoning them. It is on all of us, and we all should feel ashamed today. We all should feel shame that this video is circulating. And we should all be angry, and we should all demand an investigation into how that video was released. We should all demand that whoever released it is held accountable. It is on all of us. Because let me say it again. I got a call from Khadija Sakor's father, screaming, crying on the phone to me. Screaming, crying. So please do not think that what you are doing is harmless. You're just circulating a video. You're doing way more than that. We are going to continue to reach out to the government and get somebody on the show to talk about what they are doing, not just in the case of Khadija, but in all of these cases, what they are doing to provide justice for survivors, to provide support for survivors. We've got to do better. What good is it if you're out there screaming about what happened to Khadija, calling it an outrage, if you're sharing that video? It just makes you a hypocrite. This need to share information, to have information, to share content. And Balu Lulubi Kamara says, it's sad the poor girl doesn't deserve all of this. Haja M. Kamara says, thank you for keeping this conversation going. I've heard so many women sharing their experience in committing to improving the shameful aspect of our society. Somehow there has been a notable absence of male voices on this issue. We are working to get more men on the show to talk about this. Thank you for making that comment. We are definitely, Haja, working to get more men on this. Zainab Bangura, people are just obsessed with filth, sex, and gossip. I agree. Carl Green wants context. The context would simply be that, you know what, I don't even know where to start with that. Child pornography is being circulated that involves a video of a 5-year-old who was raped and murdered 2 weeks ago in Sierra Leone. That's the context. Agnes Mary Akpanbendu also wrote again, we have developed a silent culture. This is due to the shaming culture we have in Sierra Leone. So if girls, women that have gone through sexual abuse or any kind of abuse speaks out, they'd be laughed at, called names, etc. You know, but we have to fight that. The voices for good must overwhelm the voices for bad. We must speak up. We must speak up, and we must shut down those who want to minimize and trivialize this issue. Because let me just say this, none of us are safe. This isn't somebody else's problem. In a society where women and children are being brutalized at the rates they're being brutalized in Sierra Leone, no woman or child is safe. The final comment that I want to leave you with today from Haja Fatim Jula. May Allah give our little angel Khadija justice. Amen. We are all Khadija. We're all Khadija Sakor. Let's remember that. Let's fight for her. I want to say thank you to everybody who tuned in today. It's been an incredibly difficult hour. I know a lot of people are feeling that right now. I am as well. And I ask you to keep the Sakor family in your prayers. I ask you to do your part to be a voice, to be a champion, to be a defender for women and girls in Sierra Leone or wherever you are right now. And I ask you to not share this video, and I ask you to delete it if you come across it. And let's join together. I'm not looking for change tomorrow. I'm not looking for change the day after tomorrow. I'm looking for change now. And I ask all of you to be part of the movement. Thank you for tuning in to Home with Isha Sesay. We'll be back tomorrow with a brand new show. Stay safe, everyone. Be kind to each other. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.